Hello BookTube. Today's a Tuesday, so it's a day for book tags. I was tagged by Josh at Literary Gladiators, and this is called Josh's Scholars Book Tag. And it's a good one. I had meetings all morning this morning, but I had the afternoon off with the house to myself. So I thought, well, I'll just settle in and do this tag. I enjoyed watching it, and I found myself running from bookcase to bookcase trying to find appropriate volumes here at the house for this tag. So it was quite a bit of fun, and hopefully I have some unusual choices that might be a little out of the ordinary. And let's get started. So the first prompt is, which lesser known writer do you feel more people need to read and study? Well, I struggle a bit with this. What do you mean by lesser known? Maybe they deserve to be more known. Lesser known to me might be very well known to somebody else. But in the end, after going through all the shelves, I came up with this writer. I've never read anything else by him. His name's Paul West. Absolutely loved this book. So maybe I need to know the author more. It's Paul West, a 5th of November. Beautiful cover, if you don't mind heads stuck to pikes. It's a New Directions, New Directions book, 2001. This is a list of the author's books, so he's probably me who just doesn't know much. But I really like this. In the 5th of November, Paul West creates a mesmerizing tale with events surrounding the English gunpowder plot, 1605. Instigated by 13 Catholic conspirators, most famously Guy Fawkes, the plot was a failed attempt to blow up the English Parliament and King James I. At the heart of West's novel are the trials of Father Henry Garnett, superior of the English Jesuits, who is hidden from the king's henchmen behind the walls of English mansions. Shielding him from harm is a melancholy noblewoman, Anne Vaux, a Catholic sympathizer. A 5th of November tells a tale of Garnett. From when he first hears of the plot, the conspirators have confessed their plans to him, what is his responsibility, to his imprisonment in the Tower of London. All along, the figures who partake of this historical moment are brightly, often horrifically drawn. In the 5th of November, West tackles through his rhapsodic language, brilliant characterizations, and historical precision that inevitable topic, human evil. This, I read it years ago, but this was a very, very, very good book. I highly recommend it. So the next prompt, number 2, which well-known writer do you feel garners too much attention? Overrated or studied too much, if there is such a thing. Now, if people want to pay attention to a writer, that's their business. I don't normally care. If somebody's underappreciated, I might try to say something. Overappreciated, if I don't like them, I don't read them. Or I read them once and move on. But the one that comes to mind that I still have something of his on my shelf, and I'm not a huge fan, I don't actively dislike him, but I'm not a huge fan, would be Jonathan Franzen. I have here some essays. This is How to Be Alone essays. Farrar, Straus, and Giroux, New York, and this came out in 2002. And then the third prompt, a writer or work you believe will be in the canon by 2050. Well, I believe this writer will be. I'll just take the first volume here. I believe Patrick O'Brian will be. This one happens to be Master and Commander. And this one has an introduction by Max Hastings. It's the London Folio Society, 2008. Originally came out in 1970. These are the Aubrey Maturin novels. I'm almost finished with the third one, but these are well written. They're wonderful, and they're already moving into the canon a little bit, I believe. All right, number 4. A writer from your area, state, or country that you believe deserves more recognition. He just passed away last year, and I've mentioned him on this channel before, and that would be Howard Frank Mosher. This one happens to be Points North. It's a collection of stories that he finished right before he died. This is St. Martin's Press, New York, and this came out in 2018. But a wonderful, wonderful novelist. So, Howard Frank Mosher. Okay, a deceased writer you felt should have won a Nobel Prize in Literature. Again, I normally wouldn't judge an author just by that, but in this case, the one I can think of is Nikos Kazantzakis, and my favorite of his is this Freedom or Death. I've got it in a little paperback here. Fantastic novel. As far as I know, he never won the Nobel Prize. This is translated by Jonathan Griffith. It had a preface by A. Den Doulard, Ballantine Books, New York. And it's 1955-56. And then this is the third printing, 1969. And it's getting a wee bit tobacco-colored paper there. So, but a wonderful story. It's a novel on a heroic scale about the rebellion of Greek Christians on the island of Crete against their Turkish conquerors. So, yeah, very, very good book. A living writer you feel should win the Nobel Prize in Literature. I really, and it's true a certain taste, I think, but I really enjoy Roberto Colasso. And this one here is The Marriage of Cadmus and Harmony. Alfred A. Knopf, New York, 1993, and this is translated from the Italian by Tim Parks. Colasso mixes history, myth, art, all these things together in really unique ways. I've got quite a few of his volumes. Some essays, Literature and the Gods. Another set of essays of 49 Steps. His piece on Kafka, K. This is Ruin of Cash. And then one that focuses on India here is Ka. I have not read everything he's done, and I don't own everything he's done, but everything so far I've really, really enjoyed and sticks with me. So, yeah, I would say Roberto Colasso. A writer whose work you feel, this is number 7, a writer whose work you feel needs a complete anthology. Now, I thought about this, and normally when you think about this, you think short stories, at least I do, but you can do anthologies with books, or full-length travel books, novels, that sort of thing. And when I say that, I'm thinking about Library of America. You know, you'll get these volumes that have 4 or 5 novels in them. You think of Ursula Le Guin or Philip K. Dick or Mark Twain, any of those things where they have there's more than one book in the Library of America volume. And it's Library of America that made me choose this author, because I don't understand why he's not in their series. And I think he should be. And that's John Lloyd Stephens. And I'm going to show you some examples of his writing. He's a travel writer, extraordinary early American travel writer. This one here is Incidents of Travel in Central America, Chiapas and Yucatan. It's a Rutger University Press volume from 1949. It's edited and introduced with notes by Richard L. Predmore. Here's volume 1. You see, usually the illustrations are by an artist named Catherwood. The illustrations are magnificent. And he traveled many places. Here I have the Cosimo Classics, Incidents of Travel in Egypt, Abia Petrea, and the Holy Land. Sorry about the glare. Although the glare means we finally have some sunlight up here in New England. This is a work from 1837, which Edgar Allan Poe praised for its freshness of manner and evincing manliness of feeling. And so it's a journey through the Middle East. Another one here is Incidents of Travel in Greece, Turkey, Russia, and Poland, again by John Lloyd Stephens. Another one of those Cosimo Press things. These are nice little volumes. And this is, let's see, his wandering spirit, mellowing his analytic eye, John Lloyd Stephens is the best kind of guide, whether describing the riches of Seraglio in Turkey or the drama of Gambling Hall in Russia. The congenial and charismatic style of his narrative, with its hearty doses of humor, is warming, while enthusiastic accounts of treks, discoveries, and friends utterly gauges. And then there's, you see more of his Meso or Middle America stuff, but I like his travels in the Far East and Russia and all that, also Greece. But this is a new edition of his Incidents of Travel in Central America, Chiapas, and Yucatan. He is. And this one uses contemporary photos. His artist, Catherwood, had a volume, Frederick Catherwood, architect, published about him. This is by Victor Wolfgang von Hagen, and it has an introduction by Aldous Huxley, New York, Oxford University Press, 1950. But this will give you an idea of some of the illustrations Catherwood did for John Lloyd Stephens' writing. Here's, and again, I tell you, they tend to focus on the Mayan stuff, but I would prefer that they had everything. And this one is On the Trail of the Maya Explorer, Tracing the Epic Journey of John Lloyd Stephens by Steve Glassman. And this one is University of Alabama Press, Tuscaloosa in London, and this came out in 2003. Maya Explorer, John Lloyd Stephens and Lost Cities of Central America and Yucatan. Again, this one's a Victor Wolfgang von Hagen. This is Chronicle Book, San Francisco, 1990. His original copyright was 1947. And then finally, sort of a dual biography, again by von Hagen, is Search for the Maya, Story of Stephens and Catherwood. So some of his European stuff tends to get left out of this. This is Saxon House, and it came out in 1973. But they do have the Arabian and Arabia Petraea in here, the Nile. So quite a fascinating story. So I would like to see Library of America take, would really be nice if they could do a volume with all of Stephens' travel writing and then with the illustrations. Include at least some of the illustrations from Catherwood. I'd love to see it. And number 8, a translated work you feel deserves recognition. I'm doing this because I want to show you this book. It is translated. And I didn't know the story behind it, and you naturalists out there may already have known all about this. But this is the Ambonese Curiosity Cabinet by Georgius Everhardus Rumphius, translated, edited, annotated with an introduction by E.M. Beekman. Absolutely gorgeous thing. A little sun fading here. So, give you an idea of the size. This was Yale University Press, New Haven in London, 1999. G.E. Rumphius also, was known as the Indian Pliny, was one of the great tropical naturalists of the 17th century. Born in Germany, he spent most of his life in the employ of the Dutch East Indies Company, stationed on the island of Ambon, hence the name Ambonese Curiosity Cabinet, in eastern Indonesia. He wrote 2 major works. This one, the first modern work on tropical fauna, was published posthumously in Dutch in 1705. A classic text of natural history is now available in English for the first time. So this volume is quite the thing. I'm just reading through the introduction. Let's see if I can get you some of the... This is the area where he was working. There was his home in Kota Ambon after 1670. That picture was taken in the 1930s. And then you go through, and it's page after page of these drawings and descriptions. So I thought that was quite a beautiful thing, and I'm trying to learn a little bit about him right now. And then number 9, a work of nonfiction you feel needs to be studied. Well, I'm doing one I'm studying, and I have read it before, but it's been many, many years. And I thought I'd reread it. And these are Oxford paperbacks. And this is Paida, The Ideals of Greek Culture by Werner Jaeger. It's translated from the German by Gilbert Hyatt. So we have volume 1 here is Archaic Greece, The Mind of Athens. Volume 2 is In Search of the Divine Center. And then volume 3 is The Conflict of Cultural Ideas in the Age of Plato. So volume 1, Werner Jaeger's acclaimed 3-volume work treats Paida, the shaping of Greek character, as the basis for a study of Hellenism as a whole, to explain the introduction between the historical processes by which Greek character was formed and the intellectual process by which they constructed their ideal of human personality. This first volume describes the flowering of Greek culture during the archaic and classical epochs that preceded the fall of Athens at the end of the Peloponnesian Wars, at the beginning of the 4th century BC. And then the next, volume 2, the project of Greek culture in its heroic period was the creation of the perfect state, a goal that seemed within reach of Athens of the 5th century BC. But with the fall of Athens, that prospect evaporated, and the result, which Werner Jaeger describes in the 2nd volume of his magisterial 3-volume study of Hellenism, was the spiritualization of Greek culture, the search for the divine center. Jaeger traces the growth of the new power in human culture from its early beginnings in the teachings of Socrates to its natural climax in Plato's Republic. And then volume 3, the final volume of Werner Jaeger's 3-volume Paida, begins at the same point as its predecessor, the fall of the Periclean Empire, but pursues a different line of intellectual development. Its subject is the logical antithesis of the philosophical forces of the age, those cultural forces such as medicine, which depend upon practical experience and common sense rather than upon first principles. After exploring the conflict between these two opposing ideas, Jaeger returns to Plato and discusses his prophetic last work, The Laws, as a prelude to the tragic decline and fall of the free city-state of the classical era. So this is a reread after many decades away. So for me, at least, it's something to study. Number 10, if you could teach any 5 literature-based classes, whether they exist in some form or you create it, what would they be? Now, let me see here. I'd like to teach a history of the book as an object. Something I've studied for many years, and so that would be one. I'd like to teach a history of American science fiction. I mean, you'd have to delve into, obviously, some French and English for background, but I'd like to do an American science fiction history. I think I'd also like to do a history of maritime fiction. For me, that would be great fun. And that would be, everything from C.S. Forester's Horatio Hornblower, Patrick O'Brien, the Aubrey Maturin. I'd would be Dudley Pope, Julian Stockwin, who's writing now, Francis Marryat. Yeah, that would be great fun for me. I would. I think I'd like to do a course on Mircea Eliade and Joseph Campbell, because not only were they're blended between being anthropologists, maybe historians of religion, these types of things, but they were greatly impacted, but both men were, by literature, and it shows in their work. So that would be great fun. They're also influenced by other things like psychology and all that. And then for the fifth one, I think British thrillers, of mid-century thrillers, maybe from like the 1940s to the 1980s. You know, everything from Alistair MacLean, Desmond Bagley, Hammond Innes. I mean, the list of British thriller writers is thrilling. So those would be some fun things. So the final question, number 11, is who do you tag? Josh tagged army of people. So I'm going to throw out Dane Cobain, Elena Macradina, Todd the Librarian, Paperback Junkie, and Ernest Lee Eston. So if any of you would like to do this, I'd love to watch it. And thank you, BookTube.